especially in regard to mandatory, heavy-handed, misleading propaganda inserted into a certified ballot title. Again, there's a requirement in the law that the PID be neutral. This one clearly isn't. This has hot button items that are going to that it says are going to have reduced funding, even when that's not the case, and even when the legislature is the only one who can reduce funding for these hot button items. And then Griswold.
Aren't initiatives that seek to reduce taxes without any reference to the impacts of that not neutral themselves? No one wants to pay taxes, right? Yep. But if we all just pretend we don't have to reduce any services as a result of those cut taxes, isn't that not neutral? Isn't that only showing half the picture to voters? Isn't identifying what's going to be cut what's making it neutral in the end, because it shows both sides of the ledger?
Well, the OFM's fiscal statement is neutral. I don't have any objection to that. They want to append that.
How long is the statement?
It's significantly longer, but
how much space is is allotted for the PID?
Well, the PID is one sentence, but the PID is not neutral. And
why?
Well, because it says stuff that isn't true. Okay, it says these services will be cut, and the legislature cuts those. And in this case, there's not even going to be any money reduced.
So then, can we ever have a PID? Because if we don't know what's going to be cut, again, aren't we back to where we started?
Again, I believe yes. That's the facial challenge.
So this is just inherently all PIDs are lies and not neutral.
No, the ones where they insert what's going to be cut, the ones where the revenue's targeted, are different.
So unless the initiative itself specifies specifically the cuts,
yeah,
they're lies. If they're identifying some cut, because it's not part of the.
If they are saying that this initiative will produce cuts in specific services that do not flow from the initiative, yes, the legislature makes cuts.
So we can continue the downward regressive spiral of the tax scheme in Washington State by never having these issues identified in the initiatives, instead of just saying we're cutting taxes. No one wants to think about what's getting cut. Well, we're just cutting taxes, spending. That's all. We're going to pass the buck to someone else.
Well, the initiative process is not for that. The OFM produces a fiscal note. That's a neutral fiscal thing.
Is part of the reason we see deficits time and time again is that the budgeting is broken because no one wants to pay taxes, but we're going to leave it to someone else to do the hard work of cutting the spending? Isn't this an effort to make this neutral?
Well, if you view it that way, but if you view it in a different manner, that the legislature is the one who establishes a budget, the legislature is the one who cuts services, and specific services. The PID says these specific things will be cut.
What I am saying here, though, is it's certainly a neutral way of presenting that impact. You pick the top three, you say, well, general funds being reduced, so this is going to reduce funding that's available for these top three. And that's fair. The fact that voters might care deeply about those top three and it might impact polling as a result. This court's perspective is not only does that not make it not neutral, it demonstrates something the voters want to know about. And so, again, I don't have any opinion, nor would it be appropriate for me to voice it if I did have one about the initiative itself. My role here is simply to look at the Constitution, the language, and the statute as part of my review. And Mr. West has not met his burden of establishing a likelihood of success on the merits for the constitutionality concerns. And for the statutory review, I am denying his request to alter the language to the